Welcome, everyone, to Help for Helpers. This is the month of the body. We're going to be talking about what the body means in focusing and other things. First, Lynn, will you say some things?
I will.
Is that okay?
I will. Uh, I sort of strong-armed uh, Liz into welcoming us. Um, and we're going to have a little panel this morning, very brief speaking. And then we're going to have an attunement. And then we're all going to talk about our questions about the body and what embodiment means. It's very confusing. And we have a number of sessions to talk about the body. This one will just be sort of setting the stage with our questions about the body. And I want to start by saying that I didn't experience Gene Genlin as particularly embodied. I mean, he was a smoker. He wasn't a very physical person. He was he had an amazing presence, but but I wouldn't say that it was for me a physical presence. And I don't think of myself as a particularly embodied person. When I go for a walk, I go for a walk because I want to see the world. I want to have time to think and feel the fresh air. But I don't focus on the movement of my body very much. Whereas friends of mine who I think of as embodied take a walk because they love the physical feeling of walking. So, what does it mean to be embodied? This is a very trendy word now, embodied. Anytime you want what you think to be accepted and to take notice, you say it's embodied. So, we have our listening in focusing, we call embodied listening. I've called the related embodied relating, because if I say that, everybody's going to pay attention. But what do we mean by embodied? What's the difference between embodied listening and listening deeply? And what do we mean by deeply, of course? So in Jane's language, we would say, what do we want the word body to mean? And what do we want the word embodied to mean? What did it mean to Genlin and his philosophy? For me, it's the physicality of the non-physical. We can say that Gene wasn't talking about the physical body that's enveloped in the skin. He's talking about something bigger and broader and something that it takes an experience to really sort of get one's mind around. It transcends that mind-body split that we've inherited somehow. So I think of it as the physicality of the non-physical. And I love the word palpable. Palpable is my word, because palpable doesn't mean I have a feeling in my toe. It means something that you could feel. It has a tangibility, but it isn't only physical. So that's what I have to say to sort of begin the conversation. And I think Katerina's going to be next. We're going to have the members of our planning committee just say our questions. And then we're going to have an attunement and then have your remarks.
Oh, I'm going to read a quote. It's very short, and I put it in the chat in lumps. Jen shows us that there is an intricacy to our bodily life that not only far exceed the possibilities of any merely material substance or mere robotic uttering wed to culturally derived fads and forms of experience, but that far exceed the categories and distinctions we take to order our lives. He sees this bodily excess as itself an order of meanings, bodily implying. He furthermore sees this order of meanings as literally coming from the body, in the same way that sleep, appetite, orgasms, and emotions come from the body. In this broader sense, his research demonstrates that there is indeed such a thing as human nature, and that what is necessary to its appreciation is an opening to the ways in which the body speaks to us, ways that are not part of the established cultural order, but that break through to a different order. And that's Maxine Sheets Johnstone, the editor of the 1992 book, The Wider Role of Bodily Sense in Thought and Language.
Boy, there's a lot in that. Thank you.
The book is Giving the Body Its Due, and Jenlin's is The Wider Role of the Bodily Sense in Thought and Language.
Beautiful.
Oh, and Pauline, you're going to say something, yeah?
Thank you, Katerina. I am going to say something, but I don't know what I'm going to say. And I think that's maybe the beginning of me understanding. Well, it's not, I think we sort of said, well, what were we going to say that we don't understand about the body? And that's where I'm starting from. Every time that I take a risk of being embodied or saying something, I really don't know what part of me is going to say it. And the more that I come into my body and stay present to, I suppose it's without the language. It's the beginning of trusting something without language and allowing it form. And that's new. But it's when I'm being true to the intention, it takes a lot more courage and presence from me than sometimes that I'm able to give. And I'm beginning to understand that it moves beyond the fight, flight, freeze, and faint parts of my story. So that's it's embodied. It's embodied. It doesn't matter. I'm allowing myself feel the chaos of mess and not having to get it right. And I feel safe in this context of like, I don't know what I'm saying, and it's okay because there's no one going to hurt me, or there's no one going to, well, if they judge, that's okay as well. But just right now, holding my nerve to experience what's alive in me in a new way. So that's my
That was
beginning.
wonderful, Pauline, that idea that the speaking is a bodily thing, right? That you don't know what you're going to say and it has to come. That's wonderful.
Yes, in a new way. And I suppose I'm really excited to hear you saying, Liz or Lynn, that Gendlin wasn't particularly embodied and yet he had a presence. That's really just, yeah, it's like really curious about that. But for later on. Thank you. I don't know who's supposed to talk next, Liz or
Yeah.
Jim or Dorothy,
And
Rachel.
I wanted to note the idea of Gene Gendlin as a smoker, and that meant he wasn't embodied. And I used to smoke, and it's very embodied, and it's something that keeps the body calm enough so you can just continue to be a head in a bell jar. So I was relating to, where's my cigarette? Where's my because the body is kind of annoying and calling to you, and you have to say, shh, it's okay. Whether it's ice cream or it's a kind of early oral. Um, but I also was thinking about we don't really have trouble, I don't think, thinking about the body when we think about something called a feeling as opposed to a felt sense. So if you feel angry, I don't think it's that hard to feel it in your body. Urgh, or if you feel love, I don't think it's that hard to feel it in your body. Kind of comes naturally. But the felt sense is this tricky thing where you're being kind of intellectual at the same time, and you're going to wind up with a handle, and you kind of want to do it all and integrate it in some way. And that's when it starts to get a little complicated.
Yeah. And Jim?
You may think that I'm here with you, but all you see is a picture of my body and a disembodied voice, actually, because I'm on Zoom. So whatever you're getting from me, how can it be from my body unless somehow my body can be electronically taken to all of you, which I don't think we know how to do yet. They did that in Star Trek where they beamed people up and down. But there was always a problem. What happens? Where are you in between when you're no longer here and you haven't been beamed down yet? Where are you? Anyway, enough about Star Trek. The thing about bodies and being embodied is people seem to want a way to talk about things which are non-cognitive or precognitive. Things which are totally rational or explicit or in language. And often they say it's embodied, but I think that they're jumping the gun here. I mean, Gene in particular, in the process model, goes out of his way not to say that we perceive things with our sense organs. He talks about experience. We have experiences of things. Later on, he can talk about a sight as a particular type of experience, and it might be related to our eyes in some way. But he goes out of his way to be, what's the term I'm thinking of? Not perception first. Like so many other philosophers will talk about perception and start with it. He's not perception first. And I want to say, why do you have to have body first? Why must there be a body with your experience? Can't you? I'm having an experience right now. I might say I see things, but I'm not starting from seeing things. I have an experience, and I've learned to talk about certain kinds of experience as seeing, and so on. And I've learned to talk about certain kinds of experiences as in a body. Now, this particular body is going to die sometime, hopefully not today. But will I continue to exist without it? Well, the embodied parts of me won't, but I like to think that other parts will. And they might also include non-cognitive parts. So there's a difference between non-cognitive and embodied. And when someone says embodied, see if they're really saying non-cognitive and not saying embodied. And I guess Dorothy's probably next.
I just want to add, Jim, that when you say all of this, generally speaking, you're rocking back and forth with your body, with your chair, and it's like Gene's cigarettes. So there's something there. The body wants to be doing something as you're speaking, sort of like it won't be denied.
But of course, all you see is an image of my body rocking back and forth. For all you know, I'm playing a film.
Even in a room with somebody, you're just looking at them unless you're hugging them or attacking them. You're not, unless you're touching them, there's still an image, even when you're in the same room.
There's a lot to talk about here. Let's hear from, we'll gather all our ingredients, and then we have this rich stew to speak from. Go ahead, Dora.
Okay, what comes to me first is when I first was introduced to the whole idea of that mind and body, that, you know, I thought the mind was part of the body and like they weren't separate. And I took this movement class that was suggested to me. And the teachers later became psychoanalysts, so they were definitely interested in the psychology of movement and not just movement. And I'll never forget them saying to me, because they had us walk around the room in the beginning of class, and Dorothy, it just looks like your head is not attached to your body. There's something really cut off in your movement. And I can't say I still entirely understand. However, I lived so much of my early life feeling disconnected from my body. So there was something magical about that class and the act of movement where I felt my hands move, my legs move. I started to feel my body. So that was, I think, my first experience of what does that mean to be cut off from your body, and what's mind have to do with it? I just started a thinking process. And then I realized that the state of cutoff, I'm thinking of the speaking that Pauline was talking about, and how that takes an integration of the mind and the body, and some old archaic piece jumps out at me when I'm in a speaking arena in a group where the old flight freeze, particularly freeze, walks right into my body and shuts off a connection between speech and brain and all those nervous system connections. And I'm always amazed when people can have this flow in their speech. I don't think they experience this kind of cutoff between brain and body and nervous system, but it's very, it's all out there to me. So I'm really interested in the discussion that's going to come forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have all our ingredients from the planning committee? I think so.
Rachel was going to say something, I think.
Rachel is going to say something as a participant.
Oh,
And we're almost ready for that. we'll do a little bit of an attunement just to settle all these thoughts. So we'll be ready to have our discussion. So if you take a breath, stretch a little bit. I like this stretching part of coming into our bodies. What do we mean by coming into our bodies? I think for me, it's just sort of remembering the physical. So, body. Just settle into your chair, into your body, into your breath, into the gravity that holds you. And then ask, what am I doing here when I come into my body? What is that I'm doing? You know, it's a metaphor. We can't take these things too literally. We're not little spirits that then sort of land in a body. What are we doing? Very big, complicated question, but see how it lands just now about your relationship with your body. What does that mean? What does it mean to you to be embodied? Are there times when you feel more embodied and times when you feel less embodied? What about this idea that the body is more than the physical apparatus that can be operated on, fixed up, achy, swelling with pride? That's a different thing, right? Swelling with pride. What is this expanded body? This larger body that Jean Genlin is talking about? Focusing oriented therapy is embodied, but we aren't necessarily working with the physical body. What does that mean? Whatever of these questions has brought something, sort of mark it for yourself. And let's come back to the group with all of our thoughts and questions that aren't fully formed yet, but we can feel them in the atmosphere. Can you feel the atmosphere of this group? Struggling with the complexity of what we mean by embodied? Okay. So anybody is welcome to speak and start us off. And we'll hopefully have an embodied conversation about the body. You don't have to have answers to these questions. Just let's be with the questions themselves. But of course, if you have any answers, we want to hear that too.
Lynn, when you first said, "What are you doing there?" I think in your attunement, what are you doing? And what came to me was it was just a shift of attention. Put my attention on my body with intention, as it comes to me now. It's like with a curiosity. Yeah, that's what first came to me.
Yes, 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 yes. And what is attention? Is attention in some way bodily? Can we feel it?
Yeah, this is Megs. I'd like to say, when I think of listening, or actually just when I think of the mind, the self, sometimes metaphorically, I think like the brain, the sensibilities is made. If it was a pie chart, there would be 100 or 500 slices. Because you can listen, you can not listen, you can just be a rock glaring at somebody. You could listen intellectually, or you could be receiving in many different slices or different kinds of openness, to fully open and full empathy when you're listening. So I think when we're talking about the body is a singular noun, so I think we tend to think of it as one big chunk, but there's so many, it's a huge, many facets of the personality. And I tell you, so here's one place where every facet lights up. You open a gift, and the gift is perfect and surprising. It's something you didn't even know you wanted, and you open it up and discover you have been lusting after this. You have been secretly lusting, and there it is. And you go and you make a wonderful sound. You go, wow! You beep, you honk, you bark. And in fact, that's a sign of when your body is present, when you often when you are making noises, way away from linguistic world, you go, wow, wow. Lynn was what's her I'm sorry. Liz was, I think, making some reference to to noises. And the same thing, somebody puts a dish in front of your nose that you really, 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 really find near offensive, and sounds will come out. So those are just some thoughts. Now those are split second. It's like lightning hits, delight hits for 5 seconds, or revulsion hits, but full body involvement. There are, I think part of one of the wonderful things about focusing is that allows us to strengthen the skill of turning on more of the different kinds of receptivity and attention. Over.
Wow, that really helped me. It brought me right into that physicality of the whole thing. Thank you.
I just want to go back to Mary Ward and just say that I was really struck by your question to her, Lynn, you know, around attention, because it's almost like it's a feast of senses. You know, Meg talked about her part, but it's like I really want to hold that question and bring it forward to see what do I, because it's so fast, but what do I know about attention? So thank you.
Yeah, speaking of attention also, it's funny that when the instructions arrive about getting embodied, very often begin with take a deep breath. So what does that mean? Does that mean that when we talk about something in a cognitive way, we are breathing shallowly, which happens? Or what does it mean that taking a deep breath moves us theoretically, or for some of us, really rapidly into the world of what we call embodiment of the whole self? I think these are important questions. Yeah, I think we are so much into the embodiment because we are not that embodied. So we have the need to go towards the concept of embodiment in order to maybe just be more present with what the body is doing, whether it's the sounds or the breaths or the smell of the fabulous food, or to really pass the information through the whole body, not just the part of the brain that thinks thoughts and can pull them apart and follow their story or their origin. So in a sense, yes, I think it has to do with being less cognitive. And that doesn't quite fully say it all. I'm thinking about runners, professional runners, and when you see them run at full speed because they do want to win the race, how their whole body, I mean, they are just, is so focused. So what happens there? The whole body is collaborating in this one specific function, and it goes like the best possible way towards the target. I just think it's fascinating that embodiment really means very different things. Yeah.
Margot, you remind me of this whole idea of often if I feel a deadness in my mind or in my thinking or fuzzy or out of it, I go to a movement to be, and then the aliveness in my body that that awakens in me, I can connect better to my mind. I've always, I mean, I discovered this later in my life, but I really go to the body to enliven my mind. And I was thinking when you talked about runners and the whole idea of, they speak of the runner's high and the endorphins and all of that just came to mind.
I'm not a runner. I could never run, but I've been a dancer and I know of the dancer's high. And the dancer's high is unbelievable. I can talk about that. Yeah. But another thing that happens with embodiment, I think, is that we are asked to speak from the body, not about the body. And that's a big one for anyone who says, I'm an embodied person, or the body has always been important for me. There is a speaking from the body that's much more present sometimes. But it does take, at least for me, it takes a slowing down. Because the mind can race very easily, and we are trained to believe in the race of the mind. Maybe. Yeah, questions, more questions. But yeah, I too, Dorothy, find my mind very often by I go for a walk and finding my feet and how the whole body agrees on walking without me doing anything for it other than having the body that can walk is pretty magical as well. Okay.
The subject is, for me, a very wide one that goes in many different directions. As being alive in a physical form, I don't believe it's possible to speak without the body. And when I focus I go to a place that I call within me that is nobody. It's nothingness, it's vastness, it's silence, there's nothing. Gendlin talks about it, the not knowing. From there, creativity happens. Something is implied, something comes. And if we ask an Olympic athlete, or as Margaret said, a dancer who moves by feeling the body 8 or 10 hours a day for 20 years, could be a different experience of an embodied experience from someone like a writer that sits 10 hours a day for 20 years on the same chair to write a book or many books. It will still be a bodily experience, but probably a very different one because it's not experienced in the same way. It's like coming from another planet. It's so how do we, I even have a quote that says, I'm not the body, I'm not even the mind. I am the life that gives form to all these concepts. So it's a very vast conversation. It's very interesting, and I don't have answers for that. Maybe when I read the text that that you sent, Linda, that Gendlin wrote, it's like, are we probably making, by talking about the body, just making distinctions? Are we really talking about what the body really is? Like, can we really describe what life is? Nobody knows what it is. We're trying to put words on it to make sense, and it's cool. It's pretty exciting. So I'm interested in how you experience the body in your life. This morning I was outside playing with my cat and I did about 10 cartwheels. I walked on my hands, and I was making somersaults on the grass. I'm pretty sure none of you have done that this morning. So what kind of embodiment do we have when we sit in front of Zoom and we look at each other now? What is the experience inside we have of ourselves in a moving body? So it's not better or worse. It's just a different experience. And how do we share that when the sensation is probably not one that you have had? You have another sensation that is as interesting, probably. So it's unique. It's a kind of a unique experience. So thank you for trying to move along with more of your experiences, because it adds little pieces of the puzzle of the big picture. It's really interesting.
One of the things that comes to me is, what about my spirit? That's another sort of entity. But now, when I listen in an embodied way, I feel connected to the other. When I'm really truly listening and I'm there with the other person as we're focusing together, it seems like there's an embodiment that comes with the spirit of what we're sharing. I mean, I've never thought of this before, but it's just what's been coming to me and listening to people. But it's a different sort of feeling when I'm truly there with the other person. And I think I'd use the word embodied in that way, but there's something about a spirit that's there too. Our spirits that feel connected at the same time, which is different than the mind, and maybe somehow united with the body. I'm not sure. Just some thoughts.
Embodied spirit.
Nancy, when you say spirit, what would you like that word to mean? What does it mean for you right now?
That's hard to answer. something within me that is alive. I like to think that it will continue to be alive in an ongoing way after the body no longer is alive in the way that we know it to be now. But it feels like a part of who I am. A lot of unknown here.
And somehow it's in your body too. Is that
Mm.
right? It's you feel as a bodied something.
Yeah. It feels like if I'm in an embodied relationship with somebody else, it feels like there's a spirit as a part of that somehow
Mm,
that I can't explain.
Thank you.
That's just what came to me.
I'd like to say to Mikhail, the muscles, Mikhail, the muscles in my body which used to do cartwheels acted when you said that. I could feel it here. I could feel the palms of my hands. I could feel it in my throat. And it was just lovely. And I'd like to answer your question about in front of a screen with boxes. Most of the time now I'm in my recliner because it's more comfortable. But when I imagined a topic of the body and whoever of you would be with me, I had to get up. My body said to me, you better sit up. This is big. This is big to be received. So for me, it's very much in the body that I'm looking at all of you here, bringing you into me, your energy into me. So it's a wonderful experience. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for your partage, BJ, about the cartwheel thing. It's interesting. I've been sorry, Alexandra, do you want to say something?
Yes, but just finished. Sorry. Just go.
Okay.
If you would like to say something.
I just put in the chat a very interesting book about making distinctions that we're doing about the body right now. And it's about an author that probably you know is Ken Wilber. I believe for me, it's the most important book that I've read of him, and it's called No Boundary. So what we're making, like Jendon was saying, we're making distinctions about something that is probably impossible to name and understand. So we're trying to make sense of it. And we're saying, you know, it's when I go inside, when I go outside, they're all concept because to enlightened beings, there's no inside, no outside. There's only is. There's only one that cannot be inside or outside. We make these decisions or distinctions. We create boundaries. I'm here, you're there. But ultimately, apparently, those things are not true. So it's intriguing. Like Nancy said, it's talking about spirit, but what do we mean by that? I said earlier, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the life that gives forms to that. Well, life, we can call it spirit, become Atman, God, nothing. We don't know. I don't think we can know. Because it's not a knowing. As soon as I talk about it, it's not it. It's a reduction. So, but it's playful and it's fun and we can do it. There's no problem about that. But behind all the things we're trying to make distinctions, there is something there. Or maybe it's not a thing. Maybe it's, I don't know how to say it, that gives form to things. It's very intriguing to be playful with these ideas. So thank you again for adding more. You could go, Alexandra, if you're okay.
Okay, so thank you. So I hadn't, so I would like to say something what you said, but I had a different question. When you told about this not distinction between inside and outside of the body, there is a concept in the Tibetan Buddhism about 3 bodies. So there is one aspect of the body that is ungraspable. You can't name it. But there is also a second body that is like sound, light, you can make an experience, and then you have a physical body. And they say all 3 bodies are connected. So maybe this is something. But my question, or what I'm thinking about, is about shame. Because my experience about shame, this is a very bodily experience. You're blushing, you lower your eyes, the shoulders slumped. You would like to sink in the ground. And so this is very physical. And very often for shame, you have no words. You're caught up in your physical experience. But what does embodiment mean? So it seems to me that embodiment is something different than just the physical reaction or this just noticing. So it's a question for me. And I'm thinking about, I'm not quite sure if embodiment has a kind of holding and digesting, or that something is in it that an experience could be digested and hold with the whole sense of a human being. This is a question. Or just some thoughts from me. I hope it's understandable.
I love that embodiment is a holding of the whole person, the feeling that somebody or that myself is sort of integrated, working together or something. Is that right? Did I get
Yes, I think, yes, for me right now, I started with a feeling, I don't know what is embodiment, but then I had the feeling that embodiment has some kind of this quality, as you said, and that makes for me a kind of difference in the experience. So thank you.
I have the experience that is so assuring to me and inspiring to me that I'll have a problem or a difficulty or something and go to sleep. And I wake up the next morning with a feeling in my body, in here, that this is what I need to think about, or this is what I need to do. It's as if the life in me, as Mikhail says, has been working through the night. And then in the morning, there's this sort of release feeling of, like in focusing, like, oh, I can think about it that way, or I can do this, or I can say this. And it's, I guess, a reassurance that has to do with the body, that it's still carrying forward even while I'm sleeping.
I like your description. Then there's, I'm not sure I interpret well, but when you lie down to sleep and you do fall asleep, the realm we're in when we sleep and when we wake up in the morning, the body's still in the same place in the bed, but our experience, how vastly we can explore whatever it is that we're in the realm of awareness, in the dream state, whatever, or deep state, is something that brings me back to what Alexandra, you were saying about holding. I most of the time feel my body as a density, and a teacher used to say that what makes me feel that I have a body is self-contraction, and he would show it by closing his fist like this. This is who I am. When I close my fist and I tighten it, I have a sensation, embodied sensation, and I begin to feel that this is who I am, this tension. But who I am is when there's no tension at all, no boundaries, nothing. And there's no words for that, but that's who I really am. But is that playful enough to be living like that? Or it's moving from tension to letting go, like you were describing it a bit in your waking up in the morning, and this is life. It's moving, it's contracting, it's becoming diffused, and it's playful, and we're trying to describe this. We're kind of getting into a realm of artistic description of what living is all about. It's pretty beautiful, in fact.
Hi, Michael. I just want to kind of make a distinction between a woman's body and a man's body. And just when you were talking about contractions, I was just thinking about period pains, and labor pains. And while they're memories now, but they're pretty real, just kind of for the ladies among us. So there are different bodies. So just to say that.
And we all have different bodies also, not only in terms of gender, but we all have these unique, one-of-a-kind bodies. I'm thinking that we should go into our breakout rooms now, because it's almost 9:15, and we want to give everybody a chance to feel into this question of what we mean by embodiment in a different form with a small group.
Hi, thought I'd bring my body back here.
Hi. Welcome back. Hi, Eric. Good to see you.
Hi, Lynn. Yeah, I popped out of bed this morning. It's usually I don't want to get up at 4:30 in Oregon.
Oh my God, 4:30. Wow. Happy to have you. Very honored. The people who come at 4:30 in the morning, I mean, it's amazing. Really amazing. There you are, Rachel.
Here I am.
I was missing your face.
Yes, we lost power last night and I can't get back onto my my internet. So I'm on my phone and it feels like I'm a kid who just wants to do who doesn't know I have a laptop and just wants to do everything on my phone. So
welcome back, everybody. How was your breakout room? Anybody is welcome to share anything.
I had wanted to say something in the larger group.
Oh, great.
So I'm gonna leap in when I have a second. So I think, having tried to express this in smaller group, I'll try again a little simpler. When I know I have a client, and I don't have many now because I've neglected gathering more in my Taoist medicine practice, it quickens me. It's a little like what you said, Lynn, about you go to sleep with a problem and then you wake up and something's been digested, I think was a word that was used, Alexandra used. And when I have a client, somehow it's as if that transports me into focusing. Like it just constellates so much more. And it's like really something.
Yes, I know just what you mean.
And yes, Saturday we were talking about relating. And so that's been kind of doing that digesting thing. And recently, for graduate school stress, the school sent me to my doctor, who wouldn't give me any drugs because she says, it's in your chart, you don't believe in them. I thought, well, just take these panic attacks away. I've never felt that, but I've never had them, actually. She said, I'm prescribing behavioral health counseling, and I'm seeing this glorious old counselor who's like 65, and he's just in this flow state. He's doing all the things I'm learning, right? He's glorious. And he's laughing, and he says, I'm prescribing mindfulness to you because it's in your chart that you've been a Buddhist for 50, Tibetan Buddhist for 50 years. So I go home and I go, okay, let's sort of focus and figure out what mindfulness is. And it was different. It was this, there was something like, there's the unwanted that I dance away from. People have referred to fight, flight, freeze, play dead, right? Sympathetic nervous system. And the mindfulness says, relax, breathe, be upright or lay down, whatever. Turn towards the unwanted. Move in to the unwanted. Inhabit. Like become one with the unwanted. Make love with the, union with the unwanted, but only for 2 breaths. And try to keep breathing. And when you let go, let it go. And years ago, I thought, I've got this. And I wasn't doing it. As soon as I started doing it, it was more like focusing, honestly. And inhabiting it is like longing for the felt sense. It's it's moving in, it's wondering, it's curious, but it's also chaotic and not in control. And that fight, flight, freeze, sympathetic nervous system thing doesn't want that loss of control. The mind doesn't want to give up its rulership. And so I don't have a conclusion, but there's something about process and meaning, like something about constellating meaning, inhabiting more. And for me, as a practicing Qigong medicine, which is kind of like yoga, is a lot of in the body stuff. It's very rich and intense. It's kind of intense. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Meaning. Jean Chenlin talks about felt meaning. And I guess we could say embodied meaning. Some people experience it more as energy, and some people experience it as a feeling in their body. But I think we're talking about the same thing, this felt meaning. Those of you, how many of you were at our day of relating on Saturday? Raise your hands. It was quite an experience, a whole day of relating. And relating is such a bodily experience. I mean, we feel each other so palpably. There's my word again.
Does anybody remember, anybody who read the Lynn's paper, what is said about meaning? I'm responding to Eric. I can't find it, but it seems like it says something like, we speak of meaning as something that we lay upon an experience. But in fact, according to the writing at that moment, meaning rises from the body. Meaning comes just like all these other things that come, emotions, very beautiful. It had never occurred to me before. You know, there's that kind of we do this and say Western, but it's much bigger than that. Something that says, oh yeah, we just decide something means something. And this paper is saying, no, meaning is just like the coming of tears. It comes. And that's so beautiful. I hope that's what the paper says. It might not say that at all.
Yes, yes. Well, Jean said that, and I will send my paper to all of you.
I think Rachel and Susan have their hands up.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thanks. I think I'll go. I think I had my hand up first. Susan, is that okay? A couple things. I think being embodied is not the same as being physically active or using your body. And because I can be running and my mind can be elsewhere. I think it has to do with all of you being present at the same time. And I think there's a real, when there's been any kind of trauma of whatever subtlety. I mean, I was in my small group, we were talking about when you're small, you can't get away. So you get away in different, like perversions of getting away. You turn off your mind. Maybe people become catatonic. They don't speak, they don't use their body, or they dissociate, so they're not fully there. And so then as an adult, learning to kind of come back into your body so you have your whole self at your disposal. So you have agency both in your mind and in your body, and you can experience things, and you can also have the utility of yourself. That is like kind of has a different meaning for me than embodied and being like active or using your body rather than being sedentary. And then also how like the body, how we'll talk about it in focusing, somebody maybe wants to focus on a sore shoulder. That's very literally the body, but a felt sense for me is something that comes in like the body experience, but not literally in the body. So I think there's a lot of different intricate definitions that are sort of wanting to be explored further.
Yes. Yes. Susan.
Great food for thought, Rachel. And I'll just add to your two things. One is, some people could find sensation or exploration of the body very fruitful. Some people could find sometimes the subtleness of it helpful, and some people could possibly not find it really their jam, and to respect that. And we're all still in the body, so they still have their five senses. They still could be looking at things or experiencing things, but being more subtle with them. And I'll also say that somebody asked me, well, what about somebody when that the body is a source of terror or real discomfort? So I would say, to be very kind, we don't want to go there and reactivate the looking at what's wrong. We want to look at what's whole and what's positive. And at the moment that they can expand to that larger field, then we might want to go, or I might want to go at that point to the source shoulder because they have the capacity now to be with it in a way where they're not so tight in on it. And at that point, then it could be very fruitful to hear what that shoulder might be saying to them. So it's a very subtle thing. I'm a full disclosure, I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner, and it really was a huge thing that helped change my life, along with parts work and from the family systems. So these are my modalities, and but it all has to be done very subtly, I think.
Thank you very much. I
You're
was
welcome.
thinking when Rachel said what she did, and then when you said what you did, Susan, about the clients who come to me as a focusing oriented therapist thinking that it's a body, it's about the body, and they'll say, I have a pain in the shoulder, and I'll say, well, let's stay with that. And that transition where it introduces meaning is a big transition from the physical to the more than physical.
I would just add the subtlety to it, that the meaning, like, let's be very, for me, let me be very careful about how my mind goes to going away from it via meaning rather than being with it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Yes,
it's all very tricky with these parts.
yes,
You know, like, yeah, it's all
interpreting it
very,
rather
well,
than
running
being
away, or the problem was with you, not with me, or the problem was with me, not with you. You
Yes,
know, either
yes,
way, doing either one could be problematic, and it's just very complicated
yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
So I want to just laugh at myself here. Oh, and Lynn, I want to say again to you, like when you said you see things in terms of colors, that is so body to me, image and colors. And I always would love to hear more from you at some point about how those colors land in you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I think we have time for only one more comment, and then we're going to have our poem. Does anybody have a last?
I think Castile was raising her hand.
Castle. That's all.
I was really appreciating what you all said, and I went back in my mind. I loved it that when it was opened, what Alexandra brought in about the three bodies, because I thought, well, that's true in Tibetan Buddhism. We don't have the mind body only thing. We always have what's called the subtle body, the emotional body, the energetic body. So it's not quite, the conversation is different once one just takes that as it for granted. And I was also thinking when Michelle was talking about, Michelle was talking about, the no boundaries, and that's really great, except it's really important to know which we make distinctions. So it's so important to realize what the distinctions are we're making, because if we don't talk about them, then they just become more pervasive, but not named. So
Absolutely, yes. Okay, that's a good last comment there, reminding us to not reify the distinctions, and the distinctions bring a bodily experience. So, Dorothy, we have a special poem.
This poem is called Correspondences by Baudelaire, and it's from his collection Flowers of Evil. And if you hear certain words you're not familiar with, most of them have to do with some kind of scent. One is from like part of a whale and a waxy feature, and he's like amazing with language. And then Michaela is going to follow reading this in French. Nature is a temple where the living columns sometimes breathe confusing speech. Man walks within these groves of symbols, each of which regards him as a kindred thing. As the long echoes, shadowy, profound, heard from afar, blend in a unity, vast as the night, as sunlight's clarity. So perfumes, colors, sounds may correspond. Odors there are, fresh as a baby's skin, mellow as oboes, green as meadow grass. Others corrupted, rich, triumphant, full. Having dimensions infinitely vast, frankincense, musk, ambergris, Benjamin, singing the senses rapture, singing the senses rapture and the souls. I just wanted to mention too before Michaela reads that there were at least 10 that I saw different translations, and I just find it fascinating how the attention given to trying to really get at in another language what the artist, the poet is saying. And that's why I thought just hearing it in French might be really also enlivening. Thank you, Mikhail.
Well, the idea is really wonderful because we've been trying to make distinctions about what embodiment is, and there's maybe hundreds of different ways to describe that. So the poem in itself is a mirror of our conversation today of having it in English and having it in French. So I reorganized certain phrases because for me, it didn't make sense the way the translation in English was. So here it is in the way I see it. La nature est un temple où les colonnes vivantes exaltent parfois les paroles confuses. L'homme se promène dans ces bosquets de symboles, chacun le considérant comme un être apparenté. De même que les longs échos, ténébreux et profonds, entendus de loin, se fondent en une unité aussi vaste que la nuit, aussi claire que la lumière du soleil, de manière à ce que les parfums, les couleurs et les sons puissent y correspondre. Il y a des odeurs fraîches, comme la peau d'un bébé, douces comme un hautbois, vertes comme l'herbe des prés. D'autres, corrompues, riches, triomphantes et pleines, ayant des dimensions infiniment vastes, tels l'encens, le musc, l'ambre gris, le benjoin, chantant le ravissement des sens et de l'âme.
Thank you. My body loved that, Michelle.
Yes, yes. That was a bodily treat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful.
Thank you, everybody, for all your comments and thoughtfulness. Okay, we'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Have a great